Hello everyone and welcome to your horoscope for the week of July the 8th, 2022. We have a really important week ahead of us where we can expect a lot of instant, sudden, but also radical changes. It is safe to say that maybe perhaps not necessarily next week, but the next couple of weeks or the month of August are going to be life-altering collectively without a shadow of a doubt, but also individually. Now, of course, if you're one of those people who are gifted with time where you might not experience this as an immediate external sense of urgency, as a change, as basically the foundations, the structures of your life being shaken up one way or another, that's not necessarily a problem because maybe you are gifted with time, as I said. Maybe you can take it easy. Maybe you can take it slowly. Maybe the universe, due to your own karmic work, has gifted you the opportunity for you to be the grand design, the grand architect of your own life change, of your own life upgrade, of your own personality upgrade. So this is, of course, experience lived differently by each and every one of us. But for a lot of us, this can be a sudden, radical change, including individually. And on this weekly horoscope, I would more like to focus on the individual take of this energy and what we can expect this week, because I have a separate video, a full moon in the sign of Aquarius, which is going to be taking place this week. And that focuses more on the external /collective expression of this energy and what we can expect. Even though Uranus, expect the unexpected. That's the only safe thing to say. And this week is going to definitely be one of them. So let's begin with one of the first energies. So these energies are going to be more or less active all throughout the week. So I'm not really going to break this horoscope down 2 days because it will be felt all throughout the week, to be totally honest with you. So there are going to be a lot of peak moments because this is Uranus at play and this is also Mars squaring Saturn at play. So timing is a bit different for each and every one of us. So one of these energies is the Sun beginning to square Uranus. And one of the moments when this exacts is actually the full moon. The sun illuminating the moon at the same time when squaring Uranus and squaring the north node. So that means a T-square, and if we include the south node, that means a grand cross. So that's when this energy, the sun squaring Uranus, is going to perfect itself. Now, the sun is the ego, but also our awareness, the light of our consciousness, and something reaches our awareness. Something awakens us, Uranus. Something shocks us, Uranus. And something, let's say that it kind of predicts, but understand this word symbolically, that our lives are gonna change very, very soon. And also that we're within a life change or radical life change right now. And again, I must highlight the fact that regardless of your personal situation, no one really is excluded out of this, regardless of karma, regardless of what you have, who you're with, etc., etc., because the world is changing, the collective consciousness is changing, the collective value system is changing. And this is not a choice, this is changing. And as I said in earlier work, the first stages of a big change and upgrade is awareness. All of us need to be aware of what we have in our lives, and that also means in the world right now as a truth, as awareness, and also as a temporal inner GPS, because we need to locate ourselves in timeline. We need to see how we can get to the future that we desire. Why future Saturn in Aquarius is a big part of this energy. Hopes and dreams, so our future really, build Saturn in Aquarius, building our future, and that future that we might have been working strong to build for the past couple of years, let's say, or at least beginning from 2020, because December 2020 is when Saturn entered the sign of Aquarius, 0 degrees where it met with Jupiter. So depending, but those plans which were really, how should I say, solid, really important for us, and really authentic, well, those might radically change right now. The awareness is what changes everything, because how are we going to execute those plans? How is it that our future, individually especially, is going to look like in the following months, in the following years? And it won't look the same way as we thought. Why? Because there are going to be a lot of political changes, collective value changes, and a lot of material changes as well. A lot of modus operandi changes collectively. What does that mean? The way we work, the way we travel, the way we do things as social beings, as individual beings, as members of this and that, as, let's say, our roles that we perform professionally or in other way. All of those will change with Taurus, Uranus in Taurus, until 2026. But the change is ongoing right now, so we need to be upgraded and updated. And again, I must highlight, we must take this energy as a massive reality check, an awareness update, so to speak, of where exactly it is that we stand, both individually and collectively. But from now on, Aquarius links these two together. So that's why Aquarius, the full moon in Aquarius, this is where individual and collective are interconnected. Yes, they are dichotomous by nature. They're not, best friends. They're not good bedfellows right now, but they're still interconnected. And the fact that they're not good bedfellows and still interconnected, that means disruption, that means sparks, that means tension, that means the uprise of chaos, one way or another, of course, depending on how we look at it. So this is how this chaos, this, like a lightning bolt, a discharge of energy, the tension, the plus minus, well, that will be experienced by each and every one of us in our own unique way and in our own unique setup in our lives. Where does that Saturn stand for us? For some people, it's their love life, their heart space, their value system, their material life, their health. Everyone with their own Saturn in Aquarius. But it's still future energy, futuristic energy. So whatever surprises we get, we must understand that it is for our future. And we must embrace this awareness rather than fight it. Yes, it's uncomfortable because, some people had very practical plans. I'm buying this at this time. I'm investing, or I'm moving, or I'm doing... Yes, of course, all of us had plans. But this is an update. This is outside of our awareness. This is a reality check. So this is like a divine grace, really. And there are some celestial conversations, which I'm going to be mentioning later on, which actually do affirm this, that yes, there's hardship, it's not going to be easy, but there's divine grace guiding us from within and without. And the other beautiful expression of this Aquarian energy, we can be divine graces for each other, because Aquarius is also our own interconnections. And we have some part of interconnections who we are aware of. We speak to them each and every day. There are other which are just dormant energy, but that still is there, so it can activate. Anyway, that is why, because the dormant energy can all of a sudden activate, that is why for a lot of people, this Uranian activity can enter in their lives as new people popping up. But very valuable Taurus unexpected, and also the opinion, modus vivendi, but purity about these people, some pure radicalism, but which ultimately is constructive and benevolent, shocks us in a good way. It awakens our true values within us. This is one, and for other people this can play out as love. Because later on, not this week, the week that follows, Venus will trine Jupiter. So if that's not love, I don't know what is. And Jupiter retrograde, maybe the love that you have always been desiring, wanting, seeking, you find it. Because Jupiter in Aries, you find it. But Venus is the recipient, so it wants to be found. So anyway, and other really beneficial celestial conversations are Venus trining Neptune. Neptune is the higher octave of Venus. So this is such a beautiful energy, because this is divine grace. This is divine inspiration, divine guidance. This is the power of faith. This is where the power of the compassion from other people, unity, communion, solidarity, being one and brothers, sisters, family, in faith, in ideology. This energy can be translated into so many beautiful expression and beauty. Of course, there is beauty within the spirit. There is beauty within loving one another regardless of how. There is beauty in sharing. There is beauty in witnessing the other persons, the other beings, joyful lived experience when you give something, when you praise, when you are there for another, and the gratitude, but also the unity that's created. All of these are definitely saving graces that can feed the heart, can feed the spirit, can feed the soul, can feed one's Jupiter trine Venus sense of righteousness. This is where, for example, air signs, I'm an air sign, a lot of people who I know are air signs, many times, especially when life gets tough and when there's a big reality check coming, we see the whole thing and we process it, no problem with that. But the biggest problem is the nitty-gritty, what is right and wrong, the nuances of right and wrong, and we just get blocked in that. What should I do? Is this wrong? Is this compromise? But when we have such a powerful trine in the sky, we just know by feeling what is right and wrong. We just go with the flow. This is where we are like sheeps in spirit. Don't get me wrong, because I'm not criticizing or being ironic. Sheep in the kindest sense possible. Sheep in the pure trust a divine child has in its divine parent, in that sense that we follow. So we can feel divinely what is right and wrong, or many times that there is no right and wrong whatsoever. Right and wrong just all wash into the divine plan, Neptune in the sign of Pisces, and Venus the recipient, the emotional. We feel loved by the divine, we feel cared for, guided. And Jupiter trine Venus later on, after Venus enters Leo, is when I'm speaking about this Jupiter trine Venus, not Venus in Cancer, but Venus in Leo later on. So this is beautiful because Venus will be the recipient of our truth in the heart. Truth in the heart. Jupiter in Aries, truth in the head. Venus in the sign of Leo, truth in the heart, love. Solidarity. We just know what's right and wrong for us and in any situation, of course, in our lives. And let's continue. We also have Venus sextiling Mars, Mars sextiling Neptune. This is beautiful energy because Venus sextiling Mars, love sextile work, as in we make love work for us. We make our love, we investing our love, our passion, but this is where it's not the warrior passion, don't get me wrong, my way or the highway. This is also surrender, So investing our love into, whatever it is that we want to do in the moment. Because you can imagine, divine will sometimes will stop us doing what we're doing and will very quickly guide us to another action, to a much more inspired action. So we also need to be a recipient of divine guidance. But at the end of the day, the spirit work, the emotional work that we invest, we get back handsomely. Because love realizes Mars sextiling Venus, and then Mars sextiling Neptune. It's also earthly love, Venus, and then there's divine love. And the two meet, and the two are in harmony. So this is where we will definitely see the power of love playing out. And perhaps miraculously, this is where love will give some people out there, artists, healers, or everyone really, that love doesn't discriminate. Everyone, let's say just simply everyone. Such force that they will be able to do the unthinkable, unimaginable, either as an act of bravery, either as a creation, their creativity meeting no bounds. Because you can imagine that there's also Mercury quincunx Jupiter. Something will surprise us. Quincunx, it is a celestial conversation which links together two areas of life which apparently make no sense, but we have to find a connection. So our mind is going to be blown, but by an expression of faith. Something that we kind of believed becomes maybe real. That is Mercury in the sign of Virgo. We process it, we figure it out, we understand it, we go with the flow. So this can be good, really, really good synchronicity. And also, there is another aspect Mercury holds in the sky, which is very beautiful and harmonious. Mercury trine Uranus, its higher octave. We find the value, we find the resource, we find the money. Something benevolent reaches us by awareness. But this can also represent where an expectation of ours, a need of ours is met, surprisingly. Or this can also be, and I'm so sorry to say this, the energy of ease. Because this is atypical. Usually Virgo is not ease, but Uranus is the surprise factor. And Mercury is very strong in Virgo. So Mercury is the recipient of this blessing. An ease, a shake-up, a chaos that brings something benevolent, a contract, an opportunity, a communication, a really, really positive criticism which you embrace and it changes your life, a good advice. Anything to do with HR, if employment, work, contracts, Virgo. Anything to do with the medical profession. This can also be some good news regarding pandemic and medical situation. This can also represent a scientific medical breakthrough in so very many different ways. Because you can imagine that Mercury in the sign of Virgo represents all that is holistic as well. So alternative medicine, plant medicine and stuff like that. For example, a favorable change in legislation that certain substances are no longer considered illegal. This can be one of them, and by legislation, because Jupiter in the sign of Aries, even though if it doesn't have anything to do with this celestial conversation in itself, well, it still tries to execute legislational upgrades. And this is definitely one of them. And all this positive energy, all this blessing, all the power of love, the power of faith, the power of divine guidance, the power of the love of other people, and also a mental empowerment, Mercury, divine synchronicity, and also moments of sudden realization, epiphany, brainstorming of the good kind. Because, yes, we must understand that the reality check and the shock of the full moon, well, that's not, a piece of cake. That's not all butterflies and rainbows. Yet, by the end of the week, when Mercury, actually on Sunday, I do believe, when Mercury holds this trine with Uranus, with its higher octave, that can be a moment when, eureka, we process it, we figure it out, we finally understand what it is that we need to do, where it is that we need to go, how to execute our future plans. This is where the shock is over and we are found. In that moment of lost, we immediately get to be found again. So we use that upgrade. So this is where it's also a massive, massive, massive empowerment. And Mars also trines Pluto, and that is favorable because that is a lot of power that is bestowed upon us. Psychological power, spiritual power, material power, professional power. Your talent, skills, or professional reputation might become a power regardless if you are aware of it or not, regardless if you use it actively or not, because offers will come, work will come, you will be included. This is also the energy of inclusion. So for a lot of people, especially the loners out there, surprise, surprise, you're included and you didn't even have a word to say here, because the divine acts at this time very radically, even if it's, if it's for the greater good, especially because you're in this awareness. This is where, when you couldn't see what your greater good was all this time because of idealism, aspirations, purity of faith, no problem. You trusted the divine, and this might come as a moment of shock, as a moment of surprise, that, well, actually your greater good is no longer to be a loner. And as uncomfortable, as unimaginable as this is to you, surprise, surprise, this is the situation. Accept it, deal with it, scream if you have to. And I'm very sure that this is one way that this is going to play out for a lot of people out there, the loner types, who wish to be loners, especially because Uranus. Because, Aquarius, this is one way how Saturn in Aquarius is beaten up, so to speak. That we're social beings, we need each other. Okay, there are hermits who the divine is everything, for whom the divine is everything. That's absolutely fine because they can live without food, they can defy physical reality. So they're safe. But if you're not that person and the loner and hermit mode is more of a choice and comfort, well then you're in trouble. You're in trouble now, because human beings need the interhuman connection, because that is where the power lies as well. Saturn in Aquarius. The collective consciousness is of great power right now. Let's say, in other terms, Akasha is where everything is unfolding. Where the energy of Aquarius is unfolding, so to speak. Where this tension between the planets is striking the most. It's not really the physical reality immediately that will affect most. First, it will affect the ethereal blueprint of everything, because everything that happens in the ether, material reality follows. So there is a delay. There is, at least the minimal term is 3 days. That's the quickest manifestation. So there are going to be a lot of shocks and surprises, because, Saturn is being squared by Mars. That's one side of this energy. And the two malefics, Mars and Saturn, as they were seen by the ancients, are speaking in conflict and in tension with one another. This means economic, political earthquakes. This can represent really strong seismic activity, very unusual weather phenomenon, social unrest, a very, very quick, sudden economic transformation, in the sense that a currency dies immediately, but another one already took its place. So the damage is not really there for the collective, but the damage is there for both who fell and who rose, because those who rose would not expect it as well. So it's a surprise, surprise. But this can also represent difficulties, collectively from an economic sense, where there is unexpected surprises, deficits in some part, unused resources in abundance in other part, and this need for greater awareness. And this can also represent a lot of financial controls, especially, Saturn can represent centralized power and institutionalized control. So in the financial sector, in banks, in economy, in the assurance industry, there can be like controls and checks. There can also be like in law enforcement, a clash, a militaristic display. There is a strong element of control and anti-control here, a clashing, but this is also a political clash, an ideological clash, of value, and even a moral clash. Because you can imagine that when Uranus is so activated in the sky, this also represents that technologically there's a big boom, there is a big boost. So we will see an abundance of technology. And, the prices, when new technology rises so quickly, older technology drops in value quickly. So this will be a really good period to hunt for unexpected bargains. But this is where the bargain just has to pop up and you have to grab the opportunity quickly. This is not where you hunt it and it goes according to your plan and expectations. You need a great awareness to grab these bargains. And also, this Uranian activity can, determine certain people to, how should I say, when a hermit crab wants a radical upgrade, it changes its shell, regardless of how ideal, beautiful, strong, protective its old shell was. The change doesn't necessarily come out of physical need. This also happens to human beings. So there will be a moment when someone just goes a little bit crazy and they just want to get rid of their house, their property, their land, etc., etc. And this happens radically, unexpectedly, in a very not planned manner. So this is where opportunities just rain from the sky, out of sheer craze, or so it seems. And this is the energy we can expect. So for a lot of people, it's not going to be the bad chaos, it's going to be the good chaos. I can't believe that I didn't really have money and I have this, whatever this is for you. For a lot of people, I can't believe that, I was at my worst physically. So, not nice clothes, not very charming aspect, not good hair day. And that's when you meet the attraction of your life, the love of your life. So this is where I can't believe this happened moment in any way, shape and form. This is where if you're a professional and you really don't have any expectations, we don't care right now. And it's right now when you get that email that changes your life and you don't want to care, but neither can you ignore the email and the opportunity and you type yes or something like this, because you will know in your heart of hearts that, okay, this just happened, and regardless of how I feel, regardless of how my life is, I need to follow this divine gift ultimately, or whatever I've been trying to manifest 10 years ago pops up now. What the hell? So yes, these kind of moments when time doesn't make sense, karma might not make sense, and as I say, all of this has a positive side as well. Awareness is awareness. But we must not forget the hidden, the joker. which is the South Node, and Scorpio, which is hidden. Most astrology soft don't display the South Node directly. So we just have to, the way we know, it's always exactly, precisely opposite the North Node. So where the North Node is, the South Node is at the same degree in the opposite sign, and the same converse, and you figure out the rest, because it's very easy. But it's there, and Scorpio is secret, Scorpio is skeletons in the closet, Scorpio is the truth. And this can have a lot to do with sexuality, with relationships, with what we always felt in our hearts of hearts, the result of investigations, regardless of which kind. You know, all of this points to truth. And Uranus opposes the South Node, which means it pops out of the closet. You know, where's that toy where you have to twist the handle and the clown pops out of the box, Jack in the Box or something like that? Well, that's exactly what's gonna happen. Because if you didn't clean out your closet, Uranus is almost there. And at the same time, Mars squaring Saturn. Whoever is in the deep, gets in the deep water legally, as in criminally, legally in that sense, they're gonna make an example out of that case, out of that person, out of that world leader, regardless of who it is that you are. If you get into the deep water, you're gonna be an example. Because Mars squares Saturn. The example is to quiet down everyone's sense of thirst of, better said, justice. So of course, whatever case is going to be, both in an earthly way, but also in a divine way, they're going to be made examples out of. Like, for example, we know that case in the Bible, in this holy text, in that holy text, when someone made a rather small mistake, but the divine had enough, and they were made an example. They weren't destroyed or whatever, but how did their example get into the holy text? Because it was spoken of or known of. So yeah, this is where everyone really needs to be careful, and at the same time, health and safety rules, everything that has to do with common sense for your own protection. Saturn is bones sometimes. Uranus in the sign of Taurus is earthly energy. So let's be careful. Let's be careful with anything that has to do with, physical safety. Not risking that which is very unstable. And for example, not a good moment for massive financial risks. Squares are always good for minor, very minor playful risks, as in you lose nothing really, it's just a gesture. But for big risks, it's not a good idea, really. Now of course, if you're put in this situation by fate and you simply have no choice because it's life or death situation, well then that's a divine shock. Really, that's different. But when you have all the choice in the world, that's when do not risk. Choose safety. And also, the moon conjunct Saturn at the time of the full moon. And this is a T-square, of course. Well, I have to say about this that this can disrupt the internet. Either through natural phenomena like solar flare, but there can also be a lot of censorship, there can be a lot of controversy, there can be a lot of truth, mixed with half-truth, mixed with what people want other people to believe. So there is going to be a lot of fight in the mediatic world, and also social media and all of that. And technology can also fail at this time a little bit. And there is also the Sun squaring Mars, which is a really tough energy, because sometimes we have to do the right thing, and the right thing, Mars, do the right thing, but that is, hard for the ego. Or sometimes it's hard for the ego because we need to step into a role of the warrior. This is when we have to step into our masculinity, regardless of your gender. This is when you have to step into your position of authority. This is when you need to make some sacrifices, some cuts. You have to manage a lot of things, but no problem, because we also have this Mercury trine Uranus. Good news, surprise, help, manifestation, you figuring out. Your intelligence gets you there. And then we also have the Venus sextiles, the Venus trines, love, divine guidance, the guidance of other people. Everything that has to do with love is very, very helpful this week. Mercury being in the sign of Virgo, its home sign, is also infinitely helpful because it gives us this practical mind. It gives us the Virgo innate common sense and down-to-earth attitude. And don't get me wrong, Virgo is the best because Virgo is earthly, but out of all the earth signs, Virgo always has an open window, an open eye, an open something, an open chakra for the spiritual as well. Virgo respects the spiritual by very, very instinct. So that is why Virgo is one of the most spiritual earth signs, because it works with both practical and spiritual. For example, one of the best examples of Virgo, but that's also Taurus to be honest, is plant medicine. Because there's the spirit, the knowledge of the spirit, Virgo, and there is the healing, there is the earthly, there is the plant itself. And Taurus would be a Venusian expression of this. The love, the connection between plant and the kingdom of the plant world and the kingdom of men, so to speak. So yes, everything is really divine in nature, in design. There is nothing in our existence that is not divine, really. The fact that we human beings and perhaps other conscious forms of consciousnesses corrupt certain things, and the divine turns a blind eye, well, that doesn't mean that it's not divine, that the essence of it is not divine. And whatever it is that we think we have, including our physical bodies, including a feeling that we have, a value in our hearts, including a thought, a memory, including everything that we are, is the divine, really, is owned by the divine, and it can reclaim it at any given second. So this is where this Uranian energy will give us a really, really good karmic lesson about non-attachment. Attachment is an illusion. The pain of attachment, well, on one hand it's healthy, it needs to be there, but the extent of it, well, that's where we need to be mature spiritual beings and say, I let go, I honor it, so let go. When you cannot let go and you just embody grief, pain, and that obsession of not being able to, how should I say, work with the loss, accept the loss, well, that ultimately is a negative expression. It is the shadow, but that has to be under our control. If that controls us, we become it. So we, like it or not, have to control the grief and the pain, and we have to let it go. But at the same time, this can be material. I, many times in my life, thought I could not live without phone, I could not live without computer. Oh boy, not only did life demonstrate that I can live without, but that in my heart of hearts love passionately living without all of that. Send me to a village and I'll be happy forever. So yes, so these lessons are for all of us, really. Return to the basics, return to minimalism, return to the common sense of nature, and that is a massive blessing. It cleanses our mind, it cleanses our pineal gland, it cleanses our vibe, our body. Just being simply. I don't, just being. We all need moments of just being. So this is also the North Node in Taurus. The basic awareness before a big change. Being, just being reduced to zero, but being, and being happy, being overjoyed, being content. Because when you're at a zero moment, you're whole, you're pure, you're divine. You can do anything. And regardless of age. If you're 40, if you're 50, if you're 60, regardless of your age, you can still be an infant in spirit, in heart, and even in body. Because your body's energy will mimic that. So yes, of course, you will feel like you're 20. And that's absolutely natural, fine, it's not a miracle. It should always be like that. And of course you regenerate. And of course you feel great. But enjoy this and accept the new beginning. Because this is a Uranian moment that all of us are going to be experiencing. A quantum leap. Being reduced to zero, but like a butterfly is no longer a caterpillar. So it's a zero moment for both forms. And also what I want to mention, at the Aquarius full moon, this can also be a massive shock. So how is this possible? This situation, that all these years I wasn't aware, I never suspected. However this pops up in your life and in whatever context, this is where try your hardest to just look at it as an observer, not to immerse into it. Because so what if you weren't aware? How many of us are not aware? How many of us become aware of something that was so strikingly obvious within us, let's say, at 90? I saw this in my grandmother. So what? Does it really matter? That doesn't make you less smart, wise, deep, whatever it is that you are. It doesn't make you less whatever. It even makes you more. Because, that energy which is dormant just gives place to other ones. It makes you richer, if that even makes sense. You never stop learning. Well, you never even stop learning from yourself and the incarnation. So, try to look at everything from a perspective of an observer. And again, that which you need to let go of, just let go. Without pain, without the drama, allow it to let go. And trust that you will be given much, much more and better. But that which is truly beneficial for you. We must trust that Divine truly knows and understands us at this time. This is the Neptune trine. This is even the ultimate preparation that all of us were, sucked into or washed into at the meeting of Neptune and Jupiter this April. So all of us had massive spiritual moments when we were washed in many directions. And that all leads us here, so that right now we get the strength, we get that empowerment, we get the deep trust and the deep, openness to our faith, and just go with the flow. Let go of what we need to let go. Do the changes that the universe, our own common sense, through our own sense of logic, is telling us that we need to do this, that, that. For each and every person, this is different. But we have the wisdom to know. Because this is also a knowledge of self, an episode of self-knowledge. And before I forget, I would just like to, and sorry to interrupt my thought process, but Venus enters this week into Leo. So this also adds a lot of heart energy, heart activation, love, passionate love. This is when we are capable of doing anything and everything for love. The power of love. And also when we open ourselves, because Venus is the passive element. Venus is that which comes our way and we have to receive. So we open ourselves up to receive perhaps frequencies, perhaps energies, perhaps connection to certain people that we normally would not. Why? Because this is when we can feel the passion, when we can feel the love, when a person is true in their hearts and we feel that, chances are we won't judge them anymore regardless of who they are. And at the same time, if something that you're passionate about, something that you love, comes your way in a simple but very true form, chances are you're gonna make the effort, you're gonna say yes, you're gonna take action. So Venus, our value system, the inspiration, the flame in our heart is gonna be there. So this is also very, very important, because Mercury was in the sign of Leo. Our hearts got this empowerment of wisdom, of knowing, our hearts knowing what we want, what it wants, what our partner wants. Now Venus follows Mercury's path, so we feel it, and it's strong. And then Jupiter blesses Venus, the two benefics. But the Jupiter, the big planet of blessings, Venus, the lower one, they dance in harmony, they tango. So that's beautiful. And what does this say? Aries, the head, Leo, the heart. So it's, yes, individualistic, it's selfish, it's self-centered, right? But the self is a character in a story. So, it's the moment when the reflector is on the character, like it or not. Sometimes the divine says, look, the self, your story, who you are, your identity, which places you love, foods you love, the smell you love, five senses, Uranus and Taurus. What do you mean you don't know? Of course you don't know, because you haven't done anything. Go and do it, like it or not. And this is where the spotlight is on the self, like it or not. And for some people, for a lot of people, yes, this is brilliant, like having a birthday. For other people, this is so uncomfortable that they want to hide. But what this energy tells us, that the self also needs care and nurture, even the ego, even the identity. How can a soul know what food and taste and things they like based on five senses? You can't, only if you go and do it and experience it. But there is the Saturnian experience where you go out of sheer curiosity so that you have the lived experience. Like, for example, a cleric would, a saint would, a really devoted mystic would. Let's go and just, I know I don't like it, but let's just see what it is. This is where, no, that doesn't work. You have to love it. You have to allow it. You'll have to immerse in it. So you take the piece of food and you truly let it sit on your tongue and analyze the taste. Not just pop it, swallow it, there's the experience. No. You have to analyze it, the awareness of it. So yes, sometimes the spotlight is on the self. And if you don't have certain experiences to share, well then sorry, you're the beneficiary of them. So either you share, you show other people who are sense-wise, sensation-wise virgin, it's not sexual or anything, and you go and initiate them. If you do not have this, then you're the initiate. So go and immerse into it. Whatever life throws at you, the food, the taste, the trip, the place, the person, the conversation, the pilgrimage, the whatever, go with the flow, because it can be a very pleasant surprise. It can be a big blessing, really. So this is where, and also this is 5 senses, okay, but we can also look at this energy where your truth gets crystallized, you know your truth. So again, I must highlight, let's choose love. Let's collectively and individually allow love to realize within us, about us, from, all sources that have to do with our being. Just allow love to realize, and let's just look at everything from the perspective of the observer, and not get immersed into the darker side of things, the disruptive side of things. Because what difference is there between you as a child listening to your grandfather or a person telling the story of how they experienced the Second World War, or this big event, that big dramatic event like a calamity or whatever happened to them, and now you just looking at events yourself, and you will be the teller of the story. So this is where it's very, very important not to allow immersion into the crisis more than is healthy and basically needed. And of course, if you're listening, if you have knowledge of astrology, if you're listening to this horoscope, that you're someone who already figured this out, that you're the boss. Your reality is under your control. So you need to be the architect of it, and you need to take responsibility of what it is that you allow and what it is that you do not. And we must allow love in, because as a species, we need that. We need to feed the heart, because that's how we create a really positive future, and it's our duty. Saturn in Aquarius, and that Saturn will move very soon into Pisces, and that's when it's all of us time to pay up. Or the Pisces, the sign of finalities, Saturn, karmic finality, the big payout. So thank you everyone for listening. Thank you for all the love. Thank you for all the support. And please, again, I apologize for not being able to answer all comments and all communication, but I'm trying my hardest. Thank you again. Sending everyone love and wisdom out there, because I do believe that these are the two things we need the most right now. Until next time, bye for now.